Hey, Brian, welcome to the Virtual CMO podcast. I'm very glad you could join us today.
Hi, Eric. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be talking with you. And that was a great intro there. Really
Oh,
love the music.
thanks.
Yeah.
We like to play a
So,
little upbeat music, get
yeah.
everybody in the mood, get the blood flowing. So, yeah, thanks for that.
Oh, hopefully the sounds of New York here hopefully don't filter too much in. I'll mute myself when it gets real bad. But yeah.
It just makes it more real. And, we're recording this actually on the day that a hurricane is passing by Florida, where I live. So,
Yeah.
we may be interrupted by a big thunderstorm or something as well, but we just roll with the punches.
Yeah, definitely. God willing, and the creek don't rise, as they say. So,
Yeah, I like that. I like
uh,
that. Hey, I'm excited to talk to you today because I've spent a large portion of my career in financial services. And so it's always interesting to talk to a fellow financial services guy, especially somebody who is responsible for the customer experience, customer success. So I'm really interested to get your thoughts. But, before we dive too deep into it, how did you end up in financial services?
That's a very good question. I know if you asked my parents 15, 20 years ago, they would ask the same thing. So I moved to New York in 2012 and fell into the startup industry. I actually applied for a job that I thought was fake, and they called me back later. It was an artificial intelligence company, and I applied for like a customer experience position. And I went on the interview and saw it was a real company and took the job. And around 2014, 2015 was working in customer experience and built up quite a bit of experience and knowledge. And after being in a company for a couple of years, in this day and age, you move around. It's very advantageous for your professionals.
Right.
So I was seeking a company that was very early on, hadn't really started its customer experience program, was looking for someone to come in and build it from the ground up. And I got connected with our CEO, Michael, here. And I wasn't specifically looking for fintech or anything, but obviously, 3 years ago now, I knew that fintech was going to be a big deal. But I think I focused more on finding a company that would be a better fit for me and my skill set. And it just so happens to be that it was fintech. And that's what I love about the startup industry in general, is it allows you to kind of experience different industries and verticals. And Novo was honestly also looking for non-industry veterans because we wanted to bring a different spin to banking that we felt a lot of traditional banks were not providing for their customers. I'm sure a lot of these traditional players get stuck in these bureaucratic policies and rhythms, which is good, and they've operated that way for a long time. But consumer demands over the last 10, 5, and even now 12 months have so dramatically changed. And honestly, everyone's being compared to like Amazon and Apple.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah. So Novo wants to come in and provide them with a consumer grade experience that they're honestly not getting at the traditional players. And so, me being a non-traditional, it was a good fit. And now that I'm in the industry, I feel that more financial institutions should be taking this approach. We need to match the expectations of consumers who don't care about these archaic financial policies. They don't care that checks don't work the way you think they do. They don't care that the ACH system is slow. And I think that is what gives Novo such an advantageous play here, specifically in small business space, which is our focus. And also, the consumer banking side has gone through dramatic changes, even with the traditional players.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really exciting to be here. What I see is like an inflection point in our economy as the whole economy rapidly goes digital, and there's massive innovation in personal financial tools and services available to the consumer. Like, just think, like, this podcast wouldn't exist 10 years ago. You'd need like 5, 6 people to run this thing. And I bet it's just you in your studio by yourself flipping buttons to make these nice camera moves. You might outsource editing, but go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I do have some Oompa Loompas that help, but other than that, no. Yeah, it's just me. You're right. The technology has changed dramatically, but I still think it's a gutsy move for a company to sort of get into the banking space. Obviously, we talked a little bit before the show. FinTech is booming. There's a lot of innovation that's happening, especially in the payment space. But, to start a bank, I think there are more banks in this country than there are McDonald's. There are a lot of banks that are out there. So you truly have to come up with something that's unique and innovative to be successful in a space like this.
I agree. And I think that there are about 1,200 banks in the United States right now. But note that that is half the amount of banks we had 8 years ago.
Been a
We've
lot of
lost 50%.
consolidation.
Yes, a lot
Yeah,
of consolidation. There were like, I think 32, maybe 34 national banks in '08. Now there's four. And most of the loss in banks we've seen are regional, small local banks. So that's who Novo really is here for. We sit on top of small regional community banks and connect them with consumers that they'd never have an opportunity of connecting with because they can't innovate fast enough. They don't have the capital to build apps. They can't connect with anything. So that's what Novo is really also trying to innovate here, is keeping these regional banks alive as they're so suffering to find, consumers who, as I mentioned, have consumer grade demands, and they want fast apps. They want instant access, full access to their accounts for that matter. And so Novo is trying to do like a couple things at once here. And I agree, it is scary jumping into fintech in this day and age, especially when some of the largest banks in America right now are Starbucks, Amazon, Facebook,
sure.
Google. Like those are really the players that everyone kind of overlooks. And even the traditional players, I think, are at significant risk of disruption from these big tech companies who are becoming the largest marketplaces in the world and will be highly incentivized to provide banking products to their users and consumers. So it's really fascinating that I find myself here. It's like I'm looking out as the whole, as I said, economy is rapidly changing to this new thing. And the government, I think, needs a lot of catching up to do as well, which is a whole other can of worms.
Well, I think one of the advantages that smaller companies have, even in spaces that are dominated by, a few big players, is they also have the legacy of years worth of technology, of years worth of bureaucracy, and that doesn't always make them very nimble. Change is really difficult. And I think if you would ask people about their experience of calling into a bank call center, it's like calling your cable TV provider or your utility company, right? It's painful, nails on a chalkboard, painful. And you wonder why in this day and age they can't be better. They don't have more access to the kinds of tools that would help them be able to support their customers in a better way.
And you actually kind of just hit the nail on the head. It is, phone services, old banking services. For years, the only way to contact like AT&T or Verizon was to either go in or call. And this has trained generations of consumers that that's the way you do it. But as you said, there's no reason you need to do that. There's no reason you have to talk to a middle person to have full control of your bank account. And Novo is really trying to prioritize full customer empowerment of their account. Call us when you want to, not when you need to, right? Like you shouldn't need to call us for anything. Obviously, people have emergencies, people have problems. Those are the calls that we want to serve. And it's not like you as a consumer, like, oh God, I woke up today. I guess I got to call my bank to ask them this question. There's no reason to do that. So that's where we're at. And as you said, we see ourselves more as a tech company, not a bank.
Yeah.
So that really enables us to innovate.
Well, I like it. I think empowering consumers is really an important thing because many times I think organizations give lip service to that. They give lip service to good customer experience. But, one of my favorite examples is when you call into a call center and they say, please listen carefully because our menu options have changed.
Yeah.
No, they haven't. They haven't changed since you installed the damn thing. What they're saying is, please, please, please don't push zero. Don't talk to somebody. Listen here, and maybe one of the options will answer your questions, but please don't by default select zero to talk to an operator. And in fact, many of them have disabled zero, so you can't pick it. That's not about customer service. That's about them trying to gain some efficiencies in their call center. But what they're really doing is annoying customers in the process.
Exactly. And there's a lot of market research that's come out lately in the last few years that consumers actually feel agitated, and it is an inconvenience when they have to call a company. Yes. It doesn't matter if it's a bank or not. So, and at the same time, consumers are more open to text, SMS, live chats, and they're more open to finding an answer or solution any means possible as long as they can do it within 5 minutes. So it's like this coming together of consumer demands and expectations and, not calling anyone out lazy companies. It's like all you need to do is provide consumers with quick little experiences that may or may not involve a human that just guide people to answers or guide people to solutions. And that's all consumers want. Like for as much flack as Amazon gets, if you order an Amazon product, you can go right now, see your invoice, see where it is, cancel, reschedule, reorder. You can do anything you want. And that's one of the innovative aspects of Amazon that is often overlooked. Like everyone likes to, jump on them for all of the bad things they do, but there's a lot of amazing, innovative things they've done. And Apple's the same way. If you have an Apple Card, you could just text them and they'll just quickly give you what you need. And it's 5-minute or less experiences. And that is, I think, the future of everything, not just fintech. It is every company is going to be looking to innovate this. And so that's what I think is the opportunity for so many listeners of this podcast and myself and so many companies as well.
I love the way you frame that, because I think, and I believe this is true really in the banking space, is that so many organizations out there really believe that they have truly differentiated products. And you'd have a hard time convincing me that there is a huge difference between one checking account and another. They're minor differences, right? They're the rates that they pay or fees that they charge or certain things. But what it really comes down to is service and access. Those are the attributes sort of the product. If in an ideal world, it's almost invisible. Everything just works and you never have to inquire about anything. But I think oftentimes organizations get very hung up on what they believe are the features and benefits of their product, which turn out not to be all that much different than their competition. It's really that service level. Would you agree with that?
I 100% agree with you. I think that everyone wants banking to be invisible. I said before, no one wants to talk to their bank. And so if you really are customer innovative, you would do everything you can to build experiences and products that enabled customers to just never need to talk to you because it just worked. Money just was moved when it needed to move. You connected your accounts to each other and it just worked. The only time so what that also does though is it creates a setting where consumers might only contact you once a year. So the only way they build brand equity with you now is that one interaction. So you need to get that one interaction to be perfect, or else they could churn very quickly. And a lot of companies are afraid of that. And they've built these legacy call center systems with these, IVRs, and they're hesitant to change. And for so long, it's been cheaper to put people on phones rather than build a tech solution, which would be a much better experience. But what's fascinating is the salaries, the cost of supporting the phone center has 4x'd in 2 years. And I'm talking in the United States, the Philippines, India, everywhere. No matter where you outsource it, the cost has gone up significantly. And so companies are going to do one of two things. They're either going to make terrible experiences or one of three things. They're either going to try to do the same thing make it terrible. Try calling FedEx right now. It's impossible. And they keep trying to direct you to their live chat. But their live chat, there's no one there and it doesn't work. Yeah. Or they're going to create an amazing tech solution, or they're going to charge you in some fashion to support those phone calls. Amex has amazing phone support, but they also charge you $600 annually or whatever it is. And that's how they support it. And consumers, I think one of the things I always try to do when I talk on these shows is educate consumers about why support is the way it is and how much it is actually costing you. The reality is phone calls are costing you some way. You're getting charged by it somehow. You're getting charged for it. And so you as a consumer, while it's great to get a call, you should in the long term think of ways of, wait, how much are they charging me for this? Even if they don't send me a bill, where is the hidden cost? Yeah. And what should I be looking for in a company that I want to commit to 5-10 years, down the road? And there's a lot of consumer education around brands that I think is a good opportunity for everyone as well involved, which, I've said that twice now, but I really do feel that, we as consumers can find tremendous value identifying companies who do understand what you brought up and then how to switch to them and use them. Because so many companies claim they do that and they have no idea. They have these made up metrics or these made up features and they just go tout how great their customer service is or their customer experience is, but it's no one wants to call. No one wants to talk to you.
Nobody wants to call. Well, I think one of the frustrations that I see, and I've had guests on the show talk about before, is that when you call in and you talk to somebody, or even sometimes when you go into the store, people aren't empowered to make things right. And so they're given these scripts and they talk the talk, but they don't have the tools or the empowerment to actually solve your problem. So then that means that you're stuck on hold while they talk to a supervisor, and it's one supervisor for 50 people. So they have to wait their turn to talk to the supervisor. And in the meantime, you're just getting more and more frustrated. And just like you said, what is the real cost of all of that? So now you're wasting my 30 minutes. You're wasting the call center agent's 30 minutes. You're getting two people involved to solve one problem. Can you not just waive the $25 fee?
Exactly.
You begin to really wonder.
And I bet you could calculate how much you make an hour. And since most of these call centers are open from 8 a.m. to like 7, you're probably calling during your working hours. So you could calculate how much it's costing you or the business you work for as well, which is a whole other can of worms.
Right.
And you'll get a manager who's also not empowered. Right. So it's like this cycle of frustration.
It is. Yeah. We live in an era, I think, when tools like you're talking about, where people can solve problems on their own, that's empowering to them because they don't necessarily want to talk to somebody. They just want that problem solved in the quickest way possible. And so if you can give them the tools to do that, even better. I remember working in financial services, this term entanglement that kept getting thrown around, right? When you sign up for services like bill pay and you've got your mortgage with a company and you've got your checking and your savings account, you are so entangled in that organization that no matter how bad the service is, it's going to be really hard for you to leave them because it's such a hassle. Disconnecting all of those relationships. You can't just change your mortgage overnight. You're not going to want to change all your bill pay, right? That's a big problem. And so that's their leverage, right? They can provide you with, C+ service and know that that's good enough because it's not going to push you out the door.
Yeah, and while there's not really monopolies yet in the financial industry, as I mentioned, there's only like 4 major national players, a quadopoly, if you will. Right. They all kind of do the same thing. And the banking industry for 100 years has been built on closed system customers where, okay, we get you with the checking account, and then we know within 12 to 18 months, we're going to upsell you on a mortgage, then car insurance. And you'll see this when they interact with you. Can I offer you this? How many emails do you get from these banks about all of these services?
Oh, yeah.
And it's as you said, they want to tie you into their ecosystem, and then you can't play with anyone else. And there's been a lot of unbundling of many industries over the last 15, 20 years. There's some in banking, right? There's Prosper that's doing lending. There's savings account with Marcus, which is Goldman Sachs. But the core banking products are still largely tied to the major banks.
Right.
You can get a check as a consumer. You can get a debit card from literally anybody right now, but you can't get checking from them. You can't get like insurance. You can't get mortgages all in one place. You can go to different places, which is good and bad for consumers. Like you can go to Prosper and get a 30% interest rate loan, where if you went to anyone else, it'd be 20, whatever percent. Yeah. And so that is good and bad, but then you only have one place and one relationship for your lending product. So as a consumer, you should look for financial companies that connect to other tools and services that you want to use or already use, who are flexible, allow you full access to your information. And if they are tough with these tools, you should really ask, well, why? And it's because, as you said, they're trying to entangle you to then sell you more products to make more money. And then it's LTV, really. It's lifelong value off of you.
Yeah.
They think that if they get you on these 3 things, they're going to make $100,000 off you or more over 30 years. That's really the game for them.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and as somebody who's responsible for customer experience, when you look at the buyer's journey and the marketing that you do to attract customers, and then the buying process of actually get them signed up to become customers, and then ultimately the service process to keep them as customers, how do you sort of look at that as sort of a holistic path, as opposed to, well, that's marketing's job, that's the servicing job? How do you pull it all together to make sure that that is a seamless experience?
That is a very good question. I think that that's what's so exciting about customer experience and customer success as like a growing philosophy and business pillar, at companies now, is what is the delineation between sales, between marketing, between service, between retention, all of this. And the reality is it's all kind of the same thing. And customer experience, customer success heads, these departments are responsible for the overall experience and linking marketing together with the product, linking like you're like the voice of the customer, and you're really here to represent, understand their life cycles, understand their different needs at different life cycles. And how do you then leverage that through data to make better marketing decisions or product decisions or even sales decisions? And you're seeing like a lot of marketing and even a lot of sales is becoming automated in marketing. And a lot of marketing is becoming these seamless experiences. And it's more about like when someone comes to your brand, do they find an easy route to sign up, little to no friction, no payments? Like, can you just get someone like in the platform really quickly, show them what they're going to get with you? And I think that does a lot of the sale. And so with marketing and understanding your brand experience, it's like every interaction, does it match what the consumer thinks about you? And you said like Novo is really focused on like empowerment of customers. I've brought it up several times. So like you look at our marketing, you look at our sign up flow, our application, our website, there is a lot of like empowering language, empowering imagery. And then you apply, you can get a bank account open in like 10 minutes or less if you have everything ready to go, and most people do. And that is really empowering, because if you were to go into a traditional bank, it could take you like a week to get a bank account. And so right away, you're rewarding people, like you're empowering them off the bat. And that has this very positive feeling effect for them. And you see people instantly going on social media. They're super excited. And with small businesses, oftentimes they're looking for legitimacy. And when they open a bank account, they feel validated and seen, specifically since so many of the traditional players have overlooked them. Yeah. So customer experience really needs to understand that. Ensure everyone in the company understands that, and then you reinforce it at every step.
Yeah. And I know it's tough in a regulated environment, right? There are disclosures that you have to do. You have to collect certain forms of identification. There are credit checks and things for certain products. There are things that you just can't eliminate as part of the steps in the process. But sometimes you look at it and you say, there's got to be a way that we can make this easier. I was cleaning out my closet the other day and found, a package of papers for a home equity loan. And, it's a door weight, the thing is 50 pages or longer of just stuff that I've never read, because who's going to sit and read through 50 pages of disclosures, right? But I think that there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way.
I agree. And, I think with those disclosures, a lot of that falls to our government. I think they mandate that they have to send you in writing those things. The companies, I'm sure, would love to not send you those, but there has to be a better way. So like we started with a banking partner, and we looked at traditional ways of applying for checking and debit accounts. And it was crazy. Like the main motivation for Novo's founders to start this company was they tried to apply for a bank account, and it was insane. And they said, there has to be a better way.
Has to be a better way.
Yeah. And so we've made tremendous steps forward with collecting documents, self-service applying, quickly linking your social media, quickly linking other bank accounts, quickly finding your documents online. And the good news is there's a lot of companies that are now, forming other businesses online, like LegalZoom. You can get these documents online now, and DocuSign, which is so, in the news a lot now. That's enabled a lot of this digital transformation for us specifically. But it's so weird when I go to my bank sometimes, one of my old legacy personal banks, and they sit I have to fill out this PDF form, and I'm like, can I get a DocuSign? And they're like, no, you can't. And it's just like, wow, guys. So yeah, I think you're really spot on.
Yeah, something like a DocuSign tool. I mean, it's changed dramatically how easy it is to sign contracts. Adopt this signature, click here, and you're done. And so much of it, if it's done correctly, is pre-filled for you, so you don't have to be repeating the same information over and over again, which is a real problem with a lot of documents. But I love that, and I think that's where a lot of innovators can come into established spaces and say, hey, we can make this process better, because some of the big players, their systems are so ingrained, it's very hard for them to make significant changes without years of effort and untangling their own complicated back office infrastructure.
Exactly. And what you're also finding, and this is what I kind of love about it, it's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
You'll often find that there's not actually a regulatory or compliance or legal reason something is the way it is. It's just they've always done it that way.
Yes.
And everyone in the banking industry, oh, this is just how it's done. And it's taken as a fact. And when you really start to read things and ask regulatory people, it's like, nah, actually, no, that's just, people just do it. And we found a lot of innovation there. Now, you don't want to move too quickly because you will freak out, other banks and other
Sure.
institutions. And honestly, a lot of consumers might get freaked out too. There's like this weird feedback loop that, they think that there is supposed to be a certain level of friction because like that's what banks do. So we've observed a lot of people come to us expecting this certain level of friction and frustration. And we're like, yeah, no, you're good. Just go. That fee is refunded. Don't worry about it. Like people will call us to fight over a $25 fee that you just talked about. And we're like, oh yeah, that's already taken care of. We're like, what? They'll tell us these weird stories. Yeah, no, you don't have to tell us anything. It's good. You're refunded. Don't worry about it. So it's really funny that I saw how many people come to us thinking that they have to treat us the way they do the other big players. And then it's like, no, it's all taken care of. Customer forward focus, right? So
that's good. Well, we're living in a time when there's a lot of pent up frustration about a lot of things. We see it in our politics, but I think there are a lot of people who just have a lot of pent up frustration. And when they dial that phone and they get that poor customer service agent, boy, it's not going to take much for them just to go off on the smallest little thing.
Yeah.
So, the example that you used is great. People come, their barrels are loaded, right?
Yeah.
They're ready for a fight. And then it's just taken care of. And that kind of positive customer satisfaction, I think, is what leads to word of mouth. And people start talking about, hey, I had this great experience with my bank. Have you ever heard of them? Have you ever given them a try? You mentioned American Express before. Yeah, they charge premium fees, but they're known for having great service.
I mean, just to be clear, I love American Express. Like I have them, I use them. Charge me that fee because you're getting great service with it. And Novo, just to be clear, does not charge monthly or account fees. So we have to come up with very innovative ways to provide customer service that we don't charge you for. And then just to kind of touch off what you just said is the specter of the 2008 financial crisis is looming ever large on us, especially as the specter of the 2020 COVID crisis and potentially the market crash, the housing market crash, inflation. Like people are nervous. They were nervous. Coming out of 2008 has conditioned them to be nervous. All these market indicators. So they're very distrusting. There was all those Wells Fargo problems in the mid
That's right.
here. And so people inherently are looking for alternatives. They're hesitant to switch because of how entangled they are, but they are desperately looking for someone who they see as being in their corner, who speaks to them like a person, not like a number on a balance sheet, not a salesperson, and just is like, can you just like explain this to me in simple terms?
Yeah.
And we want to be refreshing. And I think what you're seeing with a lot of innovators in the financial space right now is they're doing that. And Novo is one of several who's playing into that. And I would say that the economic uncertainty plus disruptions coming will feed into that even more. And my hope is that we are able to protect, not Novo, but like we as a society are able to build these systems that can protect as much people as possible before it gets kind of out of control like it did in 2008.
Well, I do love the fact that you guys have picked a certain niche around small business, because I think that helps you be a lot more empathetic with your customers, right? When you're talking to small business owners all the time, the kind of problems, the frustrations that they're facing, and you can develop solutions, or you can just develop ways to talk to them in their own language so that they know that you really understand their problems. And I think organizations that try to be all things to all people oftentimes aren't to anyone, because they're so generic and you just feel like they don't understand at all the problems that you have, or sometimes even their own products and how their own products serve them.
Definitely. And what's amazing is, as I talk of coming out of 2008, is so many people these days are small businesses. You yourself are probably one.
Absolutely.
But and so Novo is targeting actual true small businesses. You hear a lot of people trying to coin them as micro businesses. No, these are small businesses, right? These are 1 or 2 person companies who got their start with an online website. They with a laptop and weekend of gumption. They built their business and they're selling and they're making a product relatively quickly with little capital. But there are only 1 or 2% companies. And you'll go to banks, you'll look at the regulation. They talk about multi-million-dollar businesses. A small business is less than 250 employees. And it's like, whoa, that is wild. No. Yeah. This is like real small. And many of these people have never had checking or debit accounts before. A lot of Americans, their primary bank accounts are Venmo and PayPal. Spoiler, those aren't banks. If there was a crisis, the money on those platforms is in question. And so that is the atmosphere we're in. And so speaking to those people, and at the same time, the rise of YouTube, TikTok, there's a lot of education on your podcast. There's a lot of education for small businesses who can very quickly find guides, really good information on how to become a profitable business in like a few days. And so those are the people that we're banking. They often are very overlooked and they just need help. They need a place to store their money, receive money, and make payments. And they don't need bells and whistles. And I think that that's really innovative and exciting. And understanding that frees Novo up to better serve those customers, as you just said. And I think more companies should really think about who they're serving and why, and not try to be a jack of all trades, master of none.
I think that's exactly it. I mean, if you go to your company's website on the homepage, you're going to see that you've got integrations into QuickBooks and Xero and things like that. You're not going to see that at Bank of America's website or Chase's website because they're serving so many different types of customers, right? You're going to have to drill into it to be able to find that kind of information. So it's very clear what you're doing. Hey, Brian, I could talk all day on financial services and customer experience. This is great. I think you've shared a lot of insights. I'd love it if you could just share a little bit more with the audience about Novo and where they could find more information, not only about Novo, but about yourself.
Yeah, so Novo, banknovo.com, you can find us there. You can apply in minutes. As I mentioned, we're here to serve, small businesses in the United States. We're looking to expand, hopefully, but right now in the United States, if you have a digital business, you're selling online, you're an Uber driver, you're a consultant or a contractor, we definitely think we're here for you. No fees on month or transactions. It's all free, and give us a holler. You can reach out to me. Also find me on Twitter at Brian W. Kale or LinkedIn. Ask me questions. Always happy to help. And we're really looking. We've had a great, a year so far. A lot of people have come to us, and we're really looking for the next few years or so. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Oh, that's great. No, I love your value proposition. I love the fact that you're targeting small businesses, and I'll make sure that we have all those links in the show notes so that people can find you and reach out and get more information. But I really love the concept and what you guys are doing. So thank you so much for being a guest today. I've really enjoyed our conversation and talking about customer experience. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for having me. And I hope it really helped out for you and your audience.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Great.